My summer reading was unfortunately kind of all over the place, but fall, we're turning that around. I think this is what pulled me out of my reading slump. Oh my goodness. I literally was losing my ever-loving mind reading the end of this. Gorgeous, emotional, tragic ending. Seriously, one of the most incredible stories I've ever read. Truly had such a ethereal experience reading this, honestly. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sophia. If you are new here, I'm so glad that you're here. And if you've been around for a while, you've probably heard about some of these summer reads, but today we're going to go through everything I read in the summer and then my fall hopefuls or my upcoming fall TBR. Okay, so even though my reading for summer was kind of all over the place and definitely not necessarily what I anticipated, I still started some of my new all-time favorite series, read some of my new all-time favorite books, and a lot of them were not on my radar at all or ones I did not expect to love as much as I did. So I'm going to count that as a win, even though I technically didn't read as much as I would like to. I'm pretty sure I'm like, gosh, let's do a check and see how far behind on my reading goal I am. Oh, you know what? I think I'm right on pace now. I think I did catch up because I did read a good amount in August, but June and July, I just really did not hit the goals that I was looking for. I try to read like 7 to 8 books per month. It really just kind of depends on what's going on. And that's why this video is so funny and I can't wait to like look back and see what I actually do because we are moving at the end of September. So that means kind of the entire month of September and October, we're packing up, we're unpacking, we're redecorating, we're moving houses, we're like doing the whole thing, you know? And I, being the way that I am, know that I will not rest until every single thing is decorated, every single thing is clean, every single thing is exactly how I want it to be. So that right there kind of means I probably will be reading less than I assume I will be right now, but who knows? I might need a good amount of reading breaks. I might really grind on the audiobooks when I'm decorating. Who knows? Overall, I feel like the summer was an odd time for me just in my life, just because I had a job transition, I got my wisdom teeth out, and there was just generally a lot going on, especially with taking content more seriously and picking up a lot of new hobbies. I just felt so extremely busy. Oh, and I also started a micro bakery out of my house too, which has just been really crazy and busy as well. So like there was just so much going on and I haven't necessarily felt like myself, I guess. And so like reading is definitely a place where I can relax, but only if I allow myself to relax. So a lot of like the last few months, it's like, okay, like I'm allowing myself to like sit down, read, relax, do what I need to do for my own mental health. But I just felt like I could not relax because there was just so much going on. And that's what I'm really trying to work on as we approach moving, just because I want to be able to give myself the space to rest, even if it's like, okay, yes, I do need to go do this, but it's okay to take a break and it's okay to go and rest. It's okay. It's really fine. I will say, before we get into these summer reads, I am getting the entire master bedroom to use as my book room and my studio space. So we are bringing in a couple more of these bookshelves. I absolutely love these bookshelves. They're called the Lack bookshelves from IKEA. I do know for sure that I have way too much weight on these shelves. They are catty corner. Like they are definitely, oh, it just got darker in here. Hold on. They are definitely weighed down way too much because like up there I've got like a plant, on the top one I've got a plant, and they're way too heavy. And I know that they are definitely hanging on. They are doing what they need to do, but I definitely know I'm going to be increasing my library. And I also know I need to definitely get a couple more shelves on this wall, on my book wall, just so that I know for sure that they're not going to fall, because I am a little bit nervous about how I have them right now. So I think they'll be good for the next month. But I am planning on ordering a good amount more of these shelves because I want to also put them in other places in our house. I think I'm going to order, there's 4 shelves on this wall right now. I think I'm going to order 1 more for this area. And then I'm going to order potentially 3 more just for like the house. And if it turns out that I need another one for over here, I'll order one. Anyways, I'm really excited about this book room. I'm looking at all the inspiration, all the things. It's going to double as like my personal library and like reading room, as well as like my studio space where I sell my stickers and bookmarks and bookbinding and all of that stuff. I also have been taking up sewing and I'm planning on adding a lot of that fun stuff to my shop at some point. I just wanted to kind of like get a lot of product in before I actually just started selling it. So I didn't put too much on my plate. But once we get in there, I'm going to have a good amount of space to really like grind, get the stuff done that I want done, and just have a space that I absolutely love. Because like looking around this room right now, I love this wall. I love how it looks. I'm so happy with how this was for the past year. We've only lived here for like a year, but we're finally moving into a house. It's just we're renting a house instead of an apartment, which I'm so excited about. I'm happy with how this looks, but like looking around, I'm like, okay, I know there are things I would totally change now that I'm like looking around. You know, like there's like blank spaces and blank walls that I would really love to take advantage of. Maybe put a shelf up there, maybe, you know what I mean? So I'm really, really hoping to really curate my book room and really just my house in general, but be looking forward to that. I have no idea how many more videos you will see with this backdrop. This could potentially be one of the last videos. I do think, yeah, I guess it is possible that this could be one of the last videos that you see with this backdrop. I do know that I have a video that's going to come out that is books I've never seen before, like reading 3 books I've never seen before, and I do know that 1 or 2 of those books are going to take place in this house. I think 1 could potentially take place in the new house. I'm not really sure. So you'll definitely see this backdrop a little bit more sprinkled out throughout videos. But if you're on Instagram or TikTok, which this is a really good plug, I have an Instagram and TikTok where I love chatting with you guys over there as well. And also YouTube Shorts, you will probably see glimpses of the moving process, whereas my YouTube videos, like the longer form content, is usually behind the times a little bit, just because it takes a little bit more to edit those, obviously. So you may be seeing this wall a couple more times, and then we should officially be in the new space, which I am so excited to decorate that. If you have any ideas, let me know, or any things that you think I should incorporate. Now that I'm like really looking at it and thinking about it, I think I might order more of these shelves than I assume, because I can always return them, but I really think that I could use them in a lot of different spaces in the house. And I love a floating shelf. I love a floating shelf somewhere. I love to put like a fun little plant on it, and knowing how weighed down these are, I probably could use another 2 on my side with the library, and then have another like 4 to use in the house somewhere else, or use on other spaces in the book room. So, yeah, that's kind of the plan. That's kind of what we're doing. I'm also going to be getting a new desk and just a whole new situation. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to bringing you along with me. Now that I've chatted your ear off about the upcoming events in my life, let's actually talk about the books that I read this summer. I did prior to this video. I didn't want to do a ton of prep work and like look at the books and really see how I was feeling about them, or like write down my thoughts, because I really want my raw reaction from the books that I read this past summer, because I feel like once you're separated from the book for a good amount of time, it's either going to stick with you or it's not. And I feel like it's going to be very obvious which books I'm passionate about and which books I'm not. And so I didn't want to do a ton of prep work for this. So I don't even like fully remember all of the books that I read June, July, August. And so we're just going to look at the list together, and we're going to talk through my thoughts on each of these, and kind of just see like over the test of time, like were these actually worth my read? I did feel like a little lost in June and July. I felt like I didn't have a direction of where I wanted to go, which is why having a TBR is helpful. And that's why I'm excited to build something for fall that will hopefully, even if I don't get to all of them, that will hopefully steer me in the right direction. And like when I'm aimless and I'm like, okay, what do I even pick up next? I can go pick up this book. So hopefully when you look at this summer list, there's several books on the summer list that I wish I had waited to read in the fall, because it would have been a much more fall-oriented book. So hopefully this helps you build your fall TBR when you're a little aimless this fall, don't know what you want to be reading, don't know like what direction to go in next. Hopefully some of these books will be a good addition to your TBR. Let's stop chatting about random stuff. Let's start chatting about some books. Okay, so obviously in June, I read 2 books. Okay, only 2. However, it was well over 2,000 pages because it was 2 Stormlight Archive Brandon Sanderson books. Okay, I officially started my deep dive into the Stormlight Archive. I had previously, earlier this year, read the Mistborn trilogy, and then I've officially like jumped into the rest of the Cosmere. I have a few different things to say about this. Overall, I have had a great time getting to know these characters. And I think if you've been around my page, or you know me at all, or you've been kind of like involved in watching me get into different series such as Red Rising, Mistborn, things I didn't necessarily think I would like, I usually end up, if they're character-driven stories, I end up absolutely eating them up, absolutely loving them. And this was absolutely no different. I will say, I think the reason June and July in August, I struggled so much to get back into reading or to feel motivated to read is because the length and the density of these can at times make reading feel like a chore. And so I do know I need to space out these giant reads because I know myself and I'm very, very interested in reading the rest of the series, but it can just at times feel very dense. However, in reading the Mistborn trilogy, which I absolutely think the ending of the original Mistborn trilogy, like there's two different ones. It's the first one. I haven't read the second one yet, but the ending of the first trilogy, The Hero of Ages, is truly one of, if not the best ending I've ever read that truly does stick with me every single day. Like I still think about it all the time. The density and the work that you go through in the series to get there is so worth it. That is how I feel with the ending of each one of these books. They're so huge. They're a story in and of its own. And the characters are really, really honestly immaculate. I love the character work. I've loved the plot lines. However, I do think I kind of have an unpopular opinion. I loved Way of Kings more than Words of Radiance. Not to say I didn't enjoy Words of Radiance, but it didn't really stick with me comparatively to The Way of Kings. I can tell you word for word what happened at the end of Way of Kings. Honestly, I would probably need a refresher for Words of Radiance. I know some of the events. I know obviously what went down, but guys, these books are well over 1,000 pages, and there are so many events and so many things that if you're reading to have like a silly, fun, good time, this might not be the book for you until you are ready for something like that because it just is really dense. So I rated these so highly. Way of Kings, I think I gave it 4.5. Words of Radiance, I gave it 4. I feel like generally, I guess I'm like an average star rater. It's really easy to get like a 3 from me, whatever, but a 4 and a 5, especially like 4.5, 5, 6-star reads are like almost impossible unless I am like really like read it at the perfectly right time. So like those are high ratings for me and I really deeply enjoyed these books. So if you're looking for like a dense book, and I know that sounds so intimidating and I'm making it sound not worth it, it is so worth it. You just have to be ready to really fully go in blind to a whole new world. And it is so worth it. Like, I am very excited to continue this series. And I do think it definitely is much more of a fall book. This series is so worth your time. It is so worth the energy and the effort you put into it. There's a caveat because you just have to read it at the right time. And I will say it is a hard book to get into if you have reading goals in terms of how many books you're reading. I know that it doesn't matter. But for type A people such as myself, it sets me back so much. Whereas I normally would read 8 books in a month, I read 2 because they are so dense and so large. And I was choosing to do other things in my free time just because this did feel like a lot of brain power was being used and I just needed to do other things to get my mind off of it. And so I know that sounds like I'm complaining about it. I'm really not. It is just denser than your normal read. And I want to prepare you for that. And it's so worth it if you are in the mood for that. And honestly, if it's the fall time, because I feel like because I read this in the summer, it's literally peak heat. I'm not feeling like reading. I have nowhere that I can go outside where it feels fun and nice to read. It is just hot and disgusting outside. And I didn't feel like prioritizing reading, honestly. And I think that really genuinely added to the issue as well. And so I'm really urge you, if you're going to read this in the fall or the winter because you're going to be hibernating and it is a really good hibernation book. I think it is a very good hibernation book because it's just a lot. There's a lot going on. It honestly needs to be a seasonal read. And I think I made a poor choice by diving in the summertime, in the peak heat of summertime. In Florida, keep in mind, I'm in Florida. So it's so hot out. It's literally disgustingly hot out. And I am not a summer girl. I hate the summer. And so I think like reading always suffers in the summer for me. Like I think last June, I also only read 2 books. And so it could just be not even to do with the books. It could just be the timing. But again, I gave them 4.5 and 4 stars. I really enjoyed them and I am looking forward to continuing the series. I don't know if it was just the timing. It just felt a lot more difficult to get through them than I feel like it would have been had I chosen a different time to read them, if that makes sense. Moving on to July, I was definitely in a reading slump, a very, very severe reading slump in July. I had started to read a book that I ended up absolutely loving, and we'll talk about that soon, but I just had to put it down. Nothing sounded fun to read. I literally only did audiobooks in July, I'm not gonna lie. I did not read one singular physical book in July. I couldn't do it. I was really down bad in a reading slump. I did fix that in August. I really went crazy with my reads in August comparatively, but in July I read 4 books. I read Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson, which is a tiny novella that you're supposed to read after Words of Radiance, so book 2. So I wanted to get that out of the way so that when I do start book 3, I've already read like the required reading in between. It was short, it was cute, gave it 3 stars. It's just kind of like, I'm not a huge novella person. Like I do love more in-depth stories. And so it was cute. It was fine. No notes, but no, like, I don't remember it very well, you know? Then I read Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. I read this because my friend saw it in Barnes & Noble and she's like, that looks so cute. Let's all read this for book club. So we read it. I had never seen it anywhere before. And it was cute. It basically was like this girl, every time she goes out with someone, she gets this random piece of paper and it tells her how long that relationship is going to last. And it's just kind of like her navigating relationships and seeing if she lets that determine her relationships or like how she should navigate any relationships. If you already know it's going to end in 5 months, should you keep dating them or how that all works? So that was like a really interesting concept, and I'm pretty sure it was narrated by Julia Whelan, and oh my goodness, anything by Julia Whelan, I love the book so much more because Julia Whelan like narrates it. I think I gave this a 3 or a 3.5 star. It was cute, nothing super memorable, but I did like enjoy the way it was narrated. So it is a fun, fast audiobook if you're looking for something like that. And I thought the concept was so unique. I've never heard of anything like that really. And so I really enjoyed that. I really did enjoy that one. It was just quick, fast paced. And I would recommend that. Okay. And then the other 2 books I read in July were The Rom-Commers and The Love Haters by Catherine Center. The reason I'm putting these together is because I'm not kidding you. With my little reading slump brain, I cannot differentiate the 2. Multiple times since reading them, I'm like, wait, was that in this book or was that in the other book? They are quite similar. So I personally wouldn't read them back to back. I gave them both 3.5 or 3.75 stars. Like it says here in my fable, I gave the Rom-Commers 3.75 stars and I gave the Love Haters 3.5. I remember having a grand time reading these. I genuinely love Catherine Center's writing. My favorite book of hers is The Bodyguard. That is one of my favorite romance books. I think it was done so beautifully. And honestly, there's just this tonality and this writing style that she uses in all of her rom-coms. I guess they're all rom-coms. And they're all honestly, like the best way to word it is they're kind of just like a joy to read. I enjoy their characters. I'm never really cringed out. The moments that she's trying to be funny really do come across as funny and I am laughing. And the moments where she's trying to be serious come across as serious. She has a very finite, how would you word that? She has a very particular writing style, and I feel like it's just nice. Like, I really, really like her writing. And so I don't really again, it's not like I'm going to read this book and it's going to change my entire life, but I genuinely had a great time reading these stories, and I would reread them. Like, they would be a fun, like, okay, I have a road trip, let me throw on this book for a few hours and, like, get familiar with it again. Like, I really enjoy her stories. So yeah, highly recommend those as well. So I definitely had some good reads in July. I just was really struggling to sit down and relax and actually read. Part of that was because I did get my wisdom teeth out and start my new job in July. So that was kind of what was going on there. August, we turned ourselves around and we did pick up some more books. First of all, the first thing I did in August was I reread Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Okay, I think that set me up for success because as an anxious girly, rereading something with characters that you know and love really just kind of puts your mind at ease because I already know what's happening. I already know what's going on. I love Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis, and Love Theoretically is my favorite Ali Hazelwood book. So I had that going on audiobook on all my walks. It just really set me up for success. Love a reread. I think that everybody should reread their favorite books at least once. And it really just kind of like puts your mind at ease because it's like, okay, like everything's fine. Everything's okay. I read that like during the entire job transition and it just was like, okay, I was really struggling at this job transition. It's going a lot better now, but at the time I just was like, oh my goodness, like I don't know if I can do this, but like having something I could go back to where I'm like, okay, I'm familiar with this. I know these characters. Nothing can go on that I haven't heard before. So it really was, I really recommend if you're going through like just like a lot of like stress at work or something, reread some of your favorite books because it's safe. It is safe. Nothing crazy can happen and you already know what's going on. Yeah, highly recommend rereading, but also highly recommend Love Theoretically if you haven't read it. I'm not Allie Hazelwood's biggest fan. I don't love, or let me say not her, just her writing. I don't love Bride. I don't love Deep End. I don't really love her YA stuff. But Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis were really, really fantastic and hit home with me. And maybe I will give those other books a chance at some point. I just know a lot of people who do love those two books like I do tried those other books and just it really fell flat for them. And so I'm just not really willing to put myself in another reading slump, to be honest. I'm just not willing right now. I need to be reading back-to-back bangers. Okay, that's like what we're hoping for with just all this transition in the second half of this year, the job and the wisdom teeth like recovering and moving and like getting my life back together just feels like a whole lot at once. I need to be reading back-to-back 5 stars, back to back. I say that and I haven't had a single 5-star since May. Okay, so then after Love Theoretically, I started The Auction. That's how down bad we were in the reading slump at this time because I was listening to Love Theoretically, but the actual physically reading, I was reading The Auction. You can go back on my page and watch Perfect Bookish Week in My Life. I was reading The Auction during that. I'm not going to lie, it took me so long to finish The Auction. I think I was literally reading that book for probably a month. Like I tried to read it for a week in July. I tried to read it during that vlog at the end of July. I tried to read it at the beginning of August. Like it took me forever to get through. That's how down bad we were in the reading slump because I was really trying to read this fan fiction to get me out of the reading slump. And I just was still so deep in this reading slump. And it was just like I was having such a hard time. With that being said, loved the fan fiction. It's by Love's Bitcut 8. I don't even think it's on AO3 anymore because it got traditionally published, like the story got reformatted. But yeah, I did really like it. It was way too long, as fan fictions tend to be. So it was good. I had a good time. Would I read it again? No, but like I saw the vision and like I had a good time reading it. And I think it did at the end help pull me out of that slump. Good, worth your read for sure if you loved Hermione, because I loved Hermione and it was a great time. Okay, then I read Time of Your Life by Jessa Hastings. I have such a hard time rating first books in a series for Jessa Hastings because I read Magnolia Parks and I really didn't love it. I carried on with the series and every book was like 4 or 5 stars. Loved it so much, and it took the first book and the toxicity of the first book and the annoying tropes of the first book to really understand what she was trying to do. So this is book 1 in I don't know how many are being planned here. I was hooked and I read this so fast. I think I gave this, gosh, I don't even know. Like I want to say 4 stars, but there are parts of it that really like didn't click with me, but other parts that I just absolutely loved. But I will say this is the fastest I've read a book since May or earlier. So I'll give it that. It was fast paced. I was so interested. I loved the font size. The actual reading experience of the book was really fantastic, and I feel like that makes or breaks your experience. So I'm just going to settle on 3.75 or 4 stars. Definitely toxic. Definitely leaves you with a lot more questions than answers. You are left on a giant cliffhanger, but I do think it's worth your time if you're a Jessa girl. If you like Magnolia Parks, you'll love this. Like, it's just kind of the vibe. Usually her writing really hits with me, like The Conditions of Will, one of my favorite books. Magnolia Parks, some of my favorite books as well. I don't love Never, but again, it's the first book in a series, and so I'm always just kind of open to whatever she's going to do because her writing does always very, very much click with me. So, I don't know. This could be for you. It could not be for you. Has a lot of those toxic relationships, but that's what she writes best. So I'm going to leave that out there for you. It was good. I had a great time reading it. It was so fast. I think this is what pulled me out of my reading slump. Actually, I think this is what did it. Okay, get excited, because this is when we talk about my favorite book so far that I read this summer. I tried to read this book I think I started it in June, a little bit, and then I tried to read it in July. And then I finally actually did commit and read it in August. I had such a hard time. I was literally in the worst reading slump ever for the first, I want to say 175, maybe 200 pages. Oh my goodness. And what was so strange about it was not that I didn't enjoy the book. I was so hooked on the characters and the story and all of that stuff. I could not bring myself to sit down and read. I don't know what was going on, but the second in August that I finally committed, and especially once I made it past that 1/3 mark, 25% even, I was so in. Something crazy happened every single freaking page. I was like, what is happening? I literally was like, what is going on? I literally couldn't put this down. I was so obsessed. It took a long time. It's a big read. It's like 640 something pages, but I really loved this. And honestly, the more blind you go into this book, the better. I think that that's the case for really every book. I think that if you go in blind and you don't know what to expect, then you can't have super high expectations, and then it'll just blow your expectations out of the water with something like this. But I will say it's somebody going from the inside out of a very, very messed up hierarchy, and they're trying to overthrow the system. That right in that way I described it is similar to Red Rising, but I don't think it qualifies under any of the other people saying it's very similar to Red Rising. That's really the only reason it is because it's somebody from the inside out trying to take over a corrupt government. Really, really fantastic. And the last thing that I will say about this is, as a girl who reads a lot, I think it becomes very easy to guess endings, to guess like what's going to happen with the plot. These last 10 pages could have never guessed that in a gazillion years. No freaking idea what happened. I am gnawing at the bars of my enclosure for November when this comes out. Like, the second one comes out in November. Oh my goodness. I literally was losing my ever-loving mind reading the end of this. Oh my goodness. Every person I've talked to that's read the end of this feels the same way. Goodness gracious. What the hell? Literally, what was this? What was this? Because I had such a great time. I loved the character work. I loved the plot. We get to the ending and I'm like, it cannot end there. It does. It sure does end there. And thank God we don't have that much longer to wait. That's all I have to say. So if you want to pick it up very soon, read this to be ready for November, and count yourself lucky that you didn't have to wait as long as the rest of us to get the second book, to know what is going on. And also read it because I need to chat about the ending with you, because I have so many questions, and you're supposed to have so many questions. But oh my goodness, literally so crazy. So crazy. Okay. Then I read Where the Axe is Buried by Ray Naylor. This is a part of a video that I'm creating of reading 3 books I've never seen before, so I'm not going to talk about this a ton because I do a full in-depth basically study on this book. Not study, but like I talk about it throughout my entire reading process and all the stuff. I think I gave this book like 3 stars, 3.5 stars, and I would recommend it. It is a very thought-provoking, short, easy read that really gets you thinking about corrupt government, politics. And it's like a futuristic world in which you get 5 to 6 different point of views of people within this corrupt government, people outside of it. And you really have to think about your own morality. And it was just a very interesting read. And I know that he's written other things that I'm very interested in reading. I also loved the cover. I loved the experience. It's one of those short hardbacks. The font was amazing. I read it so fast. And I really generally enjoyed it. And I would recommend it if you're looking for just a palate cleanser, short, thought-provoking read that you're not going to get necessarily attached to the characters, but the plot keeps it going and you just have so many questions, and you're supposed to have more questions than answers when you finish this, because I really think it's meant to just kind of get you thinking about different things. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this. Keep your eyes out for that video coming sometime in the next month or so, where I'm going to go in depth on this and you're going to watch my entire reading experience. But yeah, really, really interesting, and yeah, I definitely recommend. Then I read The Winners by Frederick Bachman. This is book 3 in the Beartown trilogy. Took me 18 gazillion years to read this because I just did little bits and pieces here and there. My one complaint for the Beartown trilogy is it should be 2 books instead of 3. And said books 2 and 3 are way too long. Way too long. Book 3, I think, was well over 700 pages, maybe even more than that. I'm not sure. However, that is my only complaint. Let that be known, because that is one of the most incredible character studies, most incredible trilogies I've ever read. The way that we wrapped up from book 1 to book 3, obviously I can't give you too many details about The Winners because it is just book 3, but the way that we wrapped up and went through book 1 through 3 was some of the most incredible writing. Frederick Bachman's writing hits home with me in a way that I don't think any other author has before. I love a lot of authors, but Frederick Bachman's writing is so emotionally moving, and not in the obvious ways, in the ways in which he connects little teeny tiny details from the beginning to the end of the story, and the way that he carried things over from book 1 to book 3, and the way his writing style just evolved and the characters you got to know. It is such a deep character study. It really is. I would call that even more than a normal book. And I'm a character girl, so I got so attached. I think I gave the winners 4.5 stars. Beartown is one of my only 5-star books of the year. Literally just such a wildly phenomenal story about a little town where the entire town is about hockey, but it's about so much more than that. And the winners just wrapped it up in such a gorgeous, emotional, tragic ending. The tonality of the story from beginning to end was just perfect. Absolutely no notes. Loved this trilogy. I love emotional reads. My only complaint was that I felt it was just a little too long. I think it could have been a little shorter. But other than that, I really had a great time. But that is why it took me so long, not because it was bad or I didn't like it. It just took me quite a while to get through it. And I needed to take little breaks because it is really emotional and there's a lot of hard, difficult topics discussed in it. So obviously check trigger warnings for that series because there's a lot going on in it that is very, very dark and just the inner workings of the politics of a town that are really just trying to survive. And it is seriously one of the most incredible stories I've ever read. Like, changed my perspective on life, I think. And like, I know that sounds so dramatic. Frederick Bachman has a way of just writing to my soul. Legitimately writing to my soul. And speaking of Frederick Bachman, I also read My Friends this month from Frederick Bachman. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Again, high ratings for this man. I love this author with my entire heart. Again, the way that this story wrapped up from beginning to end, to what the title even is, to the little nuanced quirks within this book. I was laughing. I was crying. I connect so emotionally with the way this man writes. This is an incredible book. Incredible book. I can't explain why it's not a 5-star. 5 stars is just a feeling, okay? It just is. But 4.5 is basically a 5-star to me, okay? This book was perfection. I wouldn't change anything. I truly had such a ethereal experience reading this, honestly. Really, really great. Really, really great. I don't want to say any more than that. Please read this. It's quick. It's emotional. It deals with grief pretty heavily, so keep that in mind. But as someone who's experienced a lot of grief and a lot of unfortunate death, this just speaks to that. And it speaks to the heart that's grieving with such a beautiful story. A beautiful story. I loved it. I really, really loved it. So highly, highly recommend. And then the last book in August was Passion Project by London Sperry. This was such a cute little romance, such a great palate cleanser. I did this on audiobook. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. It really was so cute and fun. And it's essentially this girl gets set up for this date after she goes through major heartbreak, and she's just having such a hard time moving on with her life. She's also dealing with grief, so keep that in mind as well for trigger warnings. And she's just having such a hard time allowing herself to move on and allowing herself to be happy because she feels like she's always supposed to be sad. I know that resonates with a lot of people who go through grief. And so she's having such a hard time letting herself move on. Well, she's set up on this date and it doesn't go very well, but then she really ends up liking the guy. And, you know what? They decide to be friends and he's going to help her find her passion in life to get her like rejuvenated after just going through so much. And you kind of see them tackle this passion project together. And it's really, really cool. And I loved how it was written. The reason it's a lower rating is because I didn't necessarily love the continual third act breakup. There was like 2 different times. I was like, okay, this could have all been handled in one. Not a big third act breakup. I know it's part of the romance plot line structure. I felt like it was a little too intense. But other than that, I really had a great time and honestly would highly recommend. So yeah, that wraps up August. That wraps up my summer reading. Overall, I had a great time. Definitely battled a very severe reading slump, but I am very, very excited for fall and all the things coming for fall. So this is a loose TBR, a very loose TBR, because I don't want to strain myself down. But if I get lost and I'm like, okay, I really don't know what I want to read next, I can go reference this list. There are some non-negotiables though, okay? Said non-negotiables, there are 2 non-negotiables. Those being, 1, The Strength of the Few comes out in November. That's book 2 to The Will of the Many, the book we just discussed. I need that book like I need air. I need to know what's going on immediately. That is non-negotiable. That will be read when it comes out, okay? That'll be read in November, okay? Next book comes out this month. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Alchemized by Sinlin Yu. I already talked about how I'm a Hermione girl. It is Manacled, which is one of the most popular Hermione fanfics, I believe, ever. And it got taken off of everything because she restructured the story and it's getting, actually published, which she deserves so much because that story was immaculate. I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this book for so long. So those are my 2 non-negotiables, Alchemized and The Strength of the Few. Moving on to some other books I really hope to get to this fall just because it feels like the time is right, the vibe is right. 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I am not a horror reader. I am not a thriller reader. I get way too scared. I do not like scary things. It's just not for me. I don't like super dark things. I even had kind of a hard time reading Vicious by V.E. Schwab because they just felt so dark and it sticks with me. It just sticks around me all day, even when I'm not reading. So I don't love dark stories, which is why I stay away from Stephen King, why I stay away from horror or thriller, anything like that. I just have such a hard time. And maybe that will change with time. However, I've heard such incredible things about 11/22/63. It's all over TikTok right now. One of my favorite creators has been recommending it, and I really am very interested. And I've heard from a lot of people that it's not scary. It's just like a time travel thriller-esque type book, and I'm willing to give it a chance. So that is number 3 of my fall TBR. Number 4 and number 5, again, I am filming a video that's going to come out of reading 3 books I've never seen before. I've already picked out all 3 of those books. The first one was Where the Axe is Buried, which we already talked about. The next one is called Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. And then the third one is called The Mademoiselle Alliance. So those are 2 other books that will be being read this fall because it is part of a video. So Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies and The Mademoiselle Alliance, which is a historical fiction. And I believe the other one is kind of like a fun mystery. So those are the other 2 that I definitely will be reading in the fall because I am planning videos around it. So I'm definitely excited to get to those. They're books I've never seen. I went into Barnes & Noble. The covers called to me, so I am reading those. Another book that's loosely on my fall TBR is A Man Called Ove, which is by Frederick Bachman. I do need to space out my Frederick Bachman reads because I don't want to run out of his backlist. So if I run out of things to read, I will either read that or My Grandma Said to Tell You She's Sorry or Britt Marie Was Here. There's so many books. Honestly, any of his backlist are on my TBR and they're always going to be fallback books for me. It's okay, if I don't have anything to read, I'm just going to keep going through his backlist because I really love him and I want to read all of his books, but I can never imagine a world where I'm out of his books to read, if that makes sense. So those are potentially on my fall TBR and I want to read Anxious People, A Man Called Ove, or any of those are really on my fall TBR. They're loosely on my fall TBR because I'm not in a rush to get through them. One other book I'm not in a rush to get through is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, book 3 in the Stormlight Archive. I would be so open to finishing books 3, 4, and 5 in the fall or the winter time, but I'm trying to take my time. This is supposedly a 10+ book series in which only 5 are out. Okay, so I am not trying to rush through this. However, I do want to keep all the characters fresh in my mind. So I would like to, over the next year, finish 3, 4, and 5. So I would say it's reasonable to assume I could finish Oathbringer through the fall. So that's on my TBR as well. But I'm also not mad if I don't and I wait through the winter. And then my last book that's loosely on my fall TBR is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I'm not the largest Leigh Bardugo fan of her writing, but I've heard really, really good things about Ninth House, and I really want to get into some dark academia this fall. I feel like that's kind of the vibes, and I own the book already, and I want to just dive in, and I want to try it. So that is definitely loosely on my fall TBR, but I obviously want to know what's on your fall TBR because when this video is out, it's obviously still going to be fall. I'm still actively building my fall TBR. That's not enough books. I'm obviously going to be reading more than those 8 or 9 books I just told you about. So please let me know what you're reading. Keep in mind, I don't love horror or thriller. And obviously I want to check out the books that you guys are so excited to read. Let me know if we align on any of those. And then I want to know what you read in summer that you loved, or I want to know what you read in summer that would translate better to the fall, because I know Will of the Many, I know My Friends, I know Where the Axe is Buried, I know The Way of Kings. All of those reads would have been so much better in the fall. So let me know books you loved, but would have been even better in the fall so that I can add them to my fall TBR. That is pretty much it for this video. I just kind of wanted to do an overview of the summer because I had been doing monthly recommendation videos based on what I had been reading or a reading wrap up. But I took a break from that just because I knew my reading was just not, especially June and July, I just was I can't do it. So I was you know what, I'll do it for August, but I'll add in June and July and my fall TBR, kind of an all-in-one for you guys. So hopefully we will get to some amazing reading in the fall. And I'm so excited to hear about your fall TBR, what you're loving, what you're reading. I'm really, really taking this content seriously. I'm trying to post a YouTube video at least once a month. I'm trying to post on TikTok every single day. And it's been awesome getting to know all of you guys, and all of your comments and all of your suggestions have been so, so good. So thanks for being here. Once again, I am on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Etsy, I'm on Fable, Goodreads, YouTube Shorts, all of the things. Those are always listed in the description. And obviously, subscribing is the best way that you can support me for free. And I'm obviously so appreciative of all of you guys who are here. We are over 1,000, and it is just so fun to make new friends on here. I'm really so appreciative. I love talking about books. I love including you in my reading journey, and I love getting ideas from you. It's just such a fun community to be a part of. So I'm very thankful to be here, very thankful that you're here. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys in the comments, and we will talk soon.